One. Evolutionary or Hardcore 2.0, episode 114 coming your way. Today we're talking about motivation and drive to succeed in the gym by Euro Pharma. So in this one, we're going to talk about why motivation and drive are important. We're going to talk about tricks for increasing your drive. We're going to talk about personal experience with motivation that Mobster and I have had. We're also going to talk about Euro Pharma products to motivate. So we're going to go over some of their products that we like and recommend. We're going to talk about why Euro Pharma is an A+ brand. But first, let's start with the first topic. Why motivation and drive are important. So I'll bring in Mobster. This is his topic. Mobster, why don't you tell us?
Look, guys, I mean, if you put this as a thing about family, if you put this as a thing about money, you'd understand it quite well. So, for example, I would say the general population of both America and the UK, Steve, huge percentage of people say that the reason why they have drive and a desire to succeed and they're motivated to get out their asses out of bed in the morning is for family. They want to provide, they want to put food on the table, they want to put a roof over the head of their kids, they want to give their kids a great education. So go, oh yeah, that's I completely get that, I completely understand it. It's kind of weird sometimes in that we will see, and you and I've talked about this, people that come to the gym, and it's almost like, today's gym day, so this is the reason why I'm there. Whereas we will see the people that succeed seem to have that something a little bit extra. So we can transfer the first part, the reason why you want to provide for your wife, your kids, and put a roof over your head and support your family. And we can put that into what we do, but take it up a notch, which is what we're going to kind of give you the little secret parts about, the little extras as part of this show, a part of this podcast, is where we'll take it a little bit. But an obvious thing, Steve, is, and we touched on this in the show that you and I recorded just a few days ago. I said it's funny that my local gym, especially in the late afternoon, when I don't go to the gym, but when it's the busiest, if it's raining, it's half empty. And yet most of the people that are going to come to the gym drive there. So you go, there's no real reason for them not to have come to the gym. So you've got to question their motivation. You've got to question their drive. The guys, and I'm including myself and Steve when I say this, that are there regardless. There's almost a meme about this, Steve, when it says earthquake, and then there's a picture of the one person at the gym that still came. You know what I mean? It's that almost like a joke, right? So you need to understand, in order to succeed at life, whether it's supporting your family, like I said, or being successful in the gym, hitting your targets, whether that's being strong, being muscular, being leaner, losing fat, you need to be motivated. You need to understand what drives you. Now, I'll explain a little bit about that, and I'll bring Steve in a second just for his views on why it is important. But I've actually used this, Steve. So there are certain things which are kind of classic and that drive and motivate great many people, and I've touched on one already, of course. And then there's little ones which I've used when I've coached in the past, where I would literally listen to conversations I'm having with the person that I'm coaching, the pupil, the client, the customer, whatever you want to call them. And I would bring this thing out on the days when their feet were dragging, when they were tired, when they were hungry, when the competition was just a few days away, and it's the last but one training session. And I used to call these red button moments, Steve. And I was also talk to the clients and the customers right at the beginning. And I would say that I don't care, because it doesn't matter to me, it matters to you, because it's what drives and motivates you to succeed. I don't care if it's a gay Greek poem. I don't care if it's a scene in a movie. I don't care if it's a particular piece of music. I don't care if it even is, making your children proud, making your mum proud, whatever. But I will find out what it is, and I will dig this out, and I will press that button that says do not press except in case of emergencies. And suddenly I'd like a fire under your ass, and you're going to run around the gym like a lunatic doing crazy fucked up shit, even when you're tired, even whatever else. So think about, and I'll bring Steve in now, think about what it is that when you're tired, you've had a hard day at work, when you've got to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning to hit the gym at 5 o'clock, what is it that gets you out of bed on those days? And if you lack that, hopefully Steve and I will bring you some suggestions, some insight, and kind of get your juices going a little bit so that your drive to succeed, your motivation to go when you're tired, you're hungry, you're grumpy, you haven't, there's bills and all this kind of crap going on, And it's not just consistency, Steve. It's that kind of extra impetus. So we're going to try and do that with you guys today. We're going to try and find out what that is and maybe get you to identify it in yourself. And it doesn't matter to Steve and I per se, because we will have thousands, if not tens of thousands of listeners, but it matters to you, the listener, and knowing it and knowing when this is the time to bring that to the table is what's going to help you succeed in the gym. So what do you think it is, Steve? What do you think about drive and motivation to succeed? How important
So,
is it?
so let me tell you something about people. People are consistent. This is why when you go apply for a mortgage or you go to rent a nice place, they're going to check your credit. Now, why did they check your credit? They want to see, do you pay your bills on time? And because if you don't pay your bills on time and I rent to you, I used to be a landlord, right? And I used to rent to people and I look up their credit and it really is amazing, Mobster. If they were not paying their bills and their credit and I let them move in, then they were going to pay me late. The day they were supposed to come look at the house for the first time, or the day they were first supposed to come and get the keys and sign the paperwork, are they late showing up? If they were late showing up, then they were going to be late paying me the rent. If they were on time
Yeah.
to the minute, then they were going to be
Yes.
on time to the minute pay me. If they were early, they were going to pay me early. People are consistent out there. So it's interesting the way Mobster described that. Um, Sometimes in situations we get reality calls in life, and it
Mm.
forces us to get that kick in the butt to be motivated in life and have that drive to succeed at things. And then using that, you can succeed in the gym. I'll give you an example. I dated a woman and she would sleep with the dog right in the bed. And one day she was always late with things. She was the type of person always procrastinated to the last minute, always was late, never was on time, ever. She like literally going to work, she was always 10, 15 minutes late. So one day she runs, I'm in the bathroom, she runs in the bathroom. She's like, Steve, there's a worm in the bed. And I'm like, what are you talking about? There's a worm in the bed. There's not a worm in the bed. What the hell are you talking about? So I go in bed. We have like flash. She's got like a flashlight on top of the bed, and there's this little worm squirming around in the bed. And she's like, that came from the dog. The dog has worms. The dog has worms. She's like flipping out. And then she literally like gets on the phone and calls every vet. This was on a Sunday. She goes, every vet in town, like freaking out. My dog, I found a worm in the bed. All because there was a worm in the bed where she sleeps, literally where she lays her bed at night.
Yeah.
That motivated her, and she took the dog, even though the vet, taking going to an emergency vet on a Sunday, they're gonna rip you off. They're gonna charge you
Yeah. It's going to be
$1,000.
hundreds, hundreds more. Yeah.
So she got motivated to do that. And I'm gonna tell you something. The vet checked the dog. The vet found out what was going on with the dog. The vet put the suggested this, suggested that, suggested you have to vacuum the carpet every day. And she was someone who never vacuumed. Like once a month, if she had to vacuum, it was a big chore, right? She hated doing housework. But let me tell you something. She went and vacuumed. She took all the sheets from the room. She took all her clothes, put them in the wash, washed them with special stuff. She vacuumed the floors every day. She
Mm.
gave the dog all the medication that the vet recommended. Then she took the dog to another vet during the week to get even
Yeah.
more medication. She did everything she had to do. So whatever was motivating her, because she was so scared of the dog getting sick and sleeping with worms, that
Yes. Yes.
she freaked out, and that gave her the motivation. So those of you out there who have a hard time with this, and I've worked with people like this before and I've done business with people like this before,
Yes.
you
Yes.
have to
Me too.
find whatever it is, whatever caused her to do, actually get her shit and not procrastinate on something. You have to try to figure it out. So you bring up a good point on that, Mobster. And so everybody, it's in there. There's something that motivates. In
Yes.
her case, it was the
Yes.
fear of her dog being sick, and it was the fear of sleeping with worms that literally gave her like PTSD, where she was freaking out, and she would check the bed like 20 times a day and wake up in the middle of the night and check the bed to see if there was more worms. That was her motivation. So imagine taking that motivation and that being that obsessed over something and taking
Let
that and using that in the gym. So that's what you have to
yeah,
do if
yeah.
you want to take it to the next level.
Let,
Yeah.
let me give you one example, Steve, and I think this is a classic story from 1960 something or other. So it's the time of peace and love. And people are getting really pissed off about Vietnam and a bunch of other wars that the Americans and the UK was involved in, where they didn't think we should be there. Okay, so you still got conscription in America, where you get the call up papers. It's time to join up, and uh, you've got a bunch of peace and love type hippies that have been made to join the army. So the story goes, it's basic training. Okay, and they really don't want to be there. They haven't quite put themselves as not available, but so they're there. They're at basic training, but they're peace and love, Steve. And it basically comes down to, why do I want to fight this war? Why are you making me do this? So the training sergeant, whatever they're called, basically, spends how many weeks kicking their ass, and his trick, if you like, is to get in the face of these really super peaceful. You can't make me angry, man. You can't make me fire a gun. And he gets on their cases again and again and again. And at some point, of course, one or two of them break and they go, "What the fuck?" And they kick off and they're ready to fight the sergeant. They're ready to fight everybody in the room, etc., etc. And he says, "Listen, that's what you want. That's what I need. Do you know why you need it, guys? I don't care if you're peace loving. No one wants a war. No one wants to go around killing people. But I need you to protect your mates back, your buddies back, the rest of the troops back. I need you out there in the field, even if you don't want to be there, even if you don't want a war to happen, even if you don't want America to be involved. I need you to protect your buddies back. I need you. I need your war face, like we've just seen. And I need that when it comes down to it. It doesn't necessarily mean you hate the guy on the other side. You've never met him. You don't know him. You don't know his wife and kids. You don't know if he's got bills and shit. He might not want to kill you, but I need you to protect your buddy's back. So he found, in that instance, the way to motivate this peace loving, I don't want to go to war kind of motherfuckers. He just basically said, "Listen, this is the situation. I can train you, I can teach you how to shoot, but I can't teach you how to kill. But I can teach you, I can find a motivator. And the motivator in that section is not dying yourself and having each and every person around you the same as you're going to protect them. All of you have got each other's back. If it goes and he gets shot, you'll drag him away from the being shot. You'll do first aid. And if it happens to you, your buddies will do the same. You can be peace and loving if you like, mate, but you're here. And if you don't do this thing, you're going to die or your buddy's going to die." So he found a way to get inside their heads and get them to come, if you like, as we say, on side and have them there. Now, the obvious thing, and we're going to talk about the tricks in a moment, is that for the great and vast majority of our listeners, Steve, it's going to be getting into shape. We've had, and we talked about this on a show recently, someone that was 300 plus pounds is now 230 pounds. So obviously losing fat and seeing their belly button for the first time in years is super important. We talked about it on another show where the same person said he wants to see his abs. He's now going to start training harder, doing more cardio. And we talked about PED stack for him on the forums as a way for him to see his abs for the first time in God knows how long. We know, for example, myself as an example, would be just breaking a personal record, just getting a lifetime best on some crazy fucked up lift that I've chosen. And the idea for me, of course, part of that process was, here's my age. I know that in the next couple of years, 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road, maybe I'm going to start getting weaker. Maybe I need to shift emphasis. So this might be my last chance to be crazy motherfucker strong. There's my motivation. There's people on the forum that are having tough days. We've seen guys doing double shifts. We've seen guys that have had to go to gym at 5 o'clock in the morning and they're still plugging away. They're still putting their stuff in their training logs, and us supporting them going, "Man, 5 o'clock in the morning is hardcore. You get at it. No excuse for no grind," because you're saying there's no excuse. So there's their motivation. When it's a tough day, when it's a horrible day, when it's a hot day, when it's a cold day, when it's a wet day, when they got a double shift and they're still getting it done, then we start to get no excuse. I've seen some of the ones, I've shared these on Facebook, Steve, and we've actually got a person on the forum who's in a wheelchair right now, where I've seen amputees doing those mud runs. I think there was one some years ago, Steve, you had to wear a face mask so he could breathe. He had stumps from the knee down. There was no legs, no calves, no lower leg. He only had 1.5 arms. He was covered in all the kind of protective clothing he could do, and he was doing one of those sort of assault course mud run type challenges. Me and Steve could have a hard day. We could be tired, Steve. We got no fucking excuse. This guy's out there absolutely destroying himself, making everybody around him proud just to be there to support him. You got no excuse if you're tired because the man next to you is missing bits and pieces of his body. What's your excuse? You can't not be driven to succeed. You would have to make the course. You have to finish your assault course. I'd be fucking embarrassed if I couldn't do it, because there's a guy there with the bottom half of his legs missing and 1.5 fucking arms. What's my excuse? So there would that day, if I was doing that course with him, I've got to finish. Hell, I've got to finish in front of him. But if I don't finish at all, if he finishes in front of me, oh my God. So it's got, and I don't want to support him. I want to help him. I want to stand on the sidelines while he's dragging himself through a fucking puddle of water and have me and the rest of the guys screaming their heads off for him to succeed. So once you start to get into that, once you start to tune into it, once you start to understand that, and it might be something completely different, then you've got no excuse. You'll literally get this shit done. And like I said, the end result, especially here, Steve, and if it's like the guy that was 319 pounds, that's now 230 pounds, the end result for him will be seeing the top row of abs from dropping 80 pounds, 90 pounds body weight of fat, not body weight, fat, to getting a set of abs would be an absolutely amazing journey for him to have gone on. And when maybe our target might only be 10 pounds of fat, Steve, it might be 2% body fat difference. It might be going from a 12% to 10%. This guy has dropped 90 fucking pounds. He's probably dropped close to, what's that, 1/3 of his body weight, Steve. So again, our drive to succeed, our desire for a motivation to succeed is tiny compared to that person. So when we're tired, our excuses become smaller, and so on and so forth. So once we kind of get those stuff, the inspiring stuff, once we understand what it is that motivates us, we can tune into that on those particular days. So let's talk about tricks, Steve, both the mental tricks and the physical ones.
So
And
let
I
me
wrote
start.
down, yeah,
Yeah,
go on. Yeah,
let me start first, because I know you have a lot to talk about on this
yeah,
one. But
yeah,
let me
yeah.
start a little bit with a couple of these that I wrote down. So look, I'm gonna give you some tricks here. So motivation and drive, you can tap them in different ways. So let's start with money. A lot of you out there love money, okay? Especially young men. Young men want money. Now, why do young men want money? I think it depends on the situation. Like for me, money is important because I grew up in a very working class environment, and my if something broke in the house, like if the hot water heater broke or a lawnmower broke, it was a problem because it wasn't like we had money to just go and buy a new lawnmower or hire someone to come fix the hot water heater or get a new hot water heater. We had to wait a week, 2 weeks to get one because we didn't have that disposable income, right? So for me, having money is about being security. So, money is important in a lot of ways. Others out there, you want money because you want to drive a nice car, you want to live in a nice house, you want to have, life is short, you want to have a boat. What does boat stand for, Mobster? It stands for bring out another thousand. So if you have a boat, it's going to be expensive. $1,000 here, $1,000 there.
Yeah, yeah.
Engine brakes, it's going to cost you 10,000. But a lot of people, they want the nice clothes, they want to flash their money around. It's been ingrained in our culture. Social media. You got these people with this. They'll buy, like, they'll get fake money offline and they'll post pictures of them sleeping in money, or having pictures of them with these $100 fake bills, whatever. And that's what it is, the jewelry and all this stuff. So some of you are motivated for money. So when it comes to money, hey, fitness industry, you can make some money. You can do a side gig in the fitness industry. You can have your social media page. You can start your own supplement company. You can be a model. You can get endorsements if you look really, really good. There's always ways to make money in the fitness industry if you look good. If you look good and you have a big social media following, trust me, some supplement company is going to hit you up and be like, hey, I'll give you free supplements every month, or I'll give you money every month to promote my product. And boom, now you're good. Now you can take those supplements and resell them if you want, make some extra cash on the side. So if you're motivated by money, that's a great thing to tap into right there when it comes to fitness. And being able to actually make, a few $100s on the side every month. Boom, now that's a
Yeah,
car payment that you can get for free. The other aspect is, before I let you take over this segment, Mobster, is how about getting laid being something, a trick? Like,
yeah,
that when it comes to whether you're gay or straight, whether you're a woman or a man, it doesn't matter. You know what
yeah,
people are attracted to? They're attracted to people who have a flat stomach and abs more than someone who's got a gut and looks pregnant. That's just a fact. What about someone, who you go out on a date with someone? Let's say you're a straight guy, you go on a date with a hot chick, right? And you show up and you got a beer gut. You think she's going to be, and you got baloney tits. You think she's going to be interested in you? Or is she going to be more interested if you show up and you look ripped as fuck? You got your biceps popping out of your shirt, right? You got the confidence going. She's going to notice that. Another thing is, when it comes to people who are in good shape, not to be vain or anything, but I'm not dating someone who's not in good shape, because I'm thinking in my mind, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 30 years from now, I don't want to be dealing with someone who's going to get more and more sick as they get older. I want to enjoy life with that person. I don't want them to
yeah,
be unhealthy. So eating good, feeling good, working out, being in good shape. That's what people are attracted to. They're not going to be attracted to you if you're not in good shape and you're sick and you're obese and you've got like high blood pressure and all these things wrong with you. They're not going to be attracted to you. So that's another thing to motivate you. And, that's great for you younger men out there who are chasing, getting laid, whether you're chasing the dick or you're chasing the pussy. You want to get more of it, right? Especially when you're in your 20s. You want to go out there and experiment and bang as many people as you can before you settle down later in life. If you do want to settle down and have a family, or you could be in like Mobster and just bang your whole life, because Mobster's never settled down.
I have done in the past, Steve, not so much at the moment. But yeah, I went crazy when I first come to Wales. And the irony, as Steve said, I've got way more of a power belly now than I had then. So I had a flatter belly. I'm tall. I'm reasonably confident. I can hold a
Yeah. Yeah, but
conversation.
you're strong, and women love
Yeah,
strong
and
men.
that was part of it.
Yeah.
And of course, I was new blood. I think I was new to the dating sites and stuff. Listen, guys. I mean, look. The bottom line is you have to understand what motivates you, and it's a simple process. I think they've done this in drama classes and stuff, see, and you might even do like one of those Anthony Robbins type motivational lecture tours or something. You go along and he'll say, "Listen, do you want to be rich? Do you want to be successful?" And listen, the guys, the girls that are there, they've paid hundreds of fucking dollars. So the answer is obviously yes. But it's one, sometimes it's a weird situation in that they almost need to be told why. Listen, you spent $300. The guy is getting 20, 30, $40,000 to stand in front of you. And you must understand that you spent hundreds of dollars for your ticket and then probably the same again for the hotel and traveling to get there and whatever else. So you're out $1,000. If you're not motivated to learn about being successful because you're out $1,000, you're in the wrong place. Was it a free gift? No. I'm thinking of also things like the Rocky movies and whatever else, Steve, right? So, and it sounds like an oversimplification, but it would be something silly like writing down your target. Let's imagine, again, you're a normal Joe who wants to get in shape. And there's something else that occurred to me while you were talking, Steve. The difference between coaching yourself, and we're actually going to do a topic on whether you or not you need a coach or a trainer, and paying someone. Now, I'm not motivated by money as much as I have been in the past, or for that matter, like Steve was just saying, certainly been motivated in the past to get as much as possible. But now I'm fucking chilling the fuck up. Don't worry about it so much. Think about it, but I'm not quite as obsessed as I used to be. So there's an element of if I was paying someone to coach me and I have a certain level of experience myself, I would want my money to be used properly. I would want the person coaching me to kick my ass. I'd want them to know as much, if not more, about training and nutrition and even motivation than I do. Because after all, I'm paying them. Steve works with clients. And I'm thinking, Steve, that people will be more likely to be motivated to succeed, more driven to succeed, if they're paying someone. It might be, as in a really simple way, Steve, that you had a bet. I bet my buddy $100 that one of us could lose £10 first. Now I'm motivated by the $100. So sometimes it's just working out what motivates you and then literally writing it down. I'll give you an example. And this is a simple trick that I've done in the past. I was training when I lived in London, so up till 2005. I had my little gym. I was training either at the local gym or the little gym that I had in the house. And when I was still training in the house, I had a printer attached to my computer. I don't even bother with those things anymore. But I printed off a sheet, A4, so letter sized, with big print words on it with the target that I had at the time. And that was up on the wall behind a power rack. So every time I went upstairs to my little gym, I saw those words. There was very little up there to distract me. There might have been a poster on the wall, that's it. And I think I had a little radio in the corner, Stevesmi music. But the one thing that every time I squatted, every time I benched, every time I used the rack to press, in front of my eyes is this target that I've set for myself for the next 3-4 months that I'm training for a competition. At some point, I write down the list of the events, and now I've got that on a separate piece of paper, saying, and now I've got the targets for those events. So with Steve and I have done shows on target setting, which I want you to listen to. We're going to do a show on coaching, which is coming soon. But this is about the motivation. And the motivation for me, Steve, is one of those brain/heart type things. Now, like I said, if it's money, you get it. If it's family, you get it. If it's literally being healthy and staying alive so that you have a longer life, and as Steve says, being around your partner because they're healthy, and you've been maybe out of shape, or maybe you drink too much, or even getting like a cancer scare, Steve, or the warnings of a heart attack and suddenly realize that you're out of shape, you need to understand it. That's the main thing. We can kind of give you suggestions, and I'm going to talk about nootropics and products in a moment, but we can give you the suggestion. You need to identify what it is for you and then make that a really powerful thing. So my last comment on the mental aspect, Steve, is going to be this. Let's say that you've worked out what it is. It might be a 3 plates each side of the bar bench press. One of the things you can do of a night time is lay in bed just before you're about to go to sleep. And certainly as you're driving to the gym, you can do this as well. Visualize those 3 plates. Lay there thinking about having your hands on the bar when it's on the bench press rack. You're just about to take it off the hooks and load your chest, and you see it. Right now, you're on 2.5 plates. You start to visualize like it's a thing, and you feel the knurling of the bar. You feel the weight in the palms of your hands. You feel your fingers gripping to stop the bar slipping out of your hands. You take it off the hooks, and now it's above your chest. You feel the tension in your front delts. You feel the tension in your pecs. You feel the gripping that bar, so now it's tension in your forearms and maybe your elbows, even your triceps, and even your rear delts. And you imagine it again and again and again for 5 minutes every night. It becomes a really powerful mental thing. And the 200 or 250 pounds that you're currently pressing starts to slowly but surely in your mind become less of a hard piece of work, less of where you think your maximum is. You're putting the time and effort in the gym, and slowly but surely, because you're doing the sets and reps, and because you're sticking to the program, because you're using Euro Pharma PEDs, you slowly but surely go from 2.5 plates to 2 3/4 plates. Now 3 plates is just over there. Your motivation to do 3 plates becomes stronger. And again, this is just a sort of example of the kind of stuff that we're talking about. And you can do that for 5 minutes every night. You can do it for 5 minutes as you drive into the gym. You can literally do it as you're about to bench press your 2 3/4 plates, visualizing and seeing it. These are examples. I do stuff where sometimes certain key pieces of music really G's you up. You've heard inspirational orchestral music, and it makes you want to go to train. That little scene, the training montage from the Rocky movies, makes you want to go and train. So just those kind of, how simple is that? It's literally a visual thing in a movie, but it makes you want to go train. Someone's put a few notes together, and for whatever reason, it lifts your heart. It makes you want to go out and kick some ass. These are the things that start to get that. I think there's very few people that are listening to the show that don't have some kind of motivation All we're going to try and help you to do is take it up one or two notches. I want to talk about the physical stuff. We're going to talk about our personal drivers in a minute, as well as obviously EuroPharma's products that we could help. There are, Steve and I are not big fans of pre-workouts, but there are also nootropics out there, and a couple of the sources that we talk about on the forums have nootropic type products. And these kind of light your brain up. They kind of encourage more signals backwards and forwards between the neurons in your brain. And if you are fired up, if you are driven, or even if you're kind of half there, you've had a stressful day, like I said earlier, you're studying for exams at school or college, the nootropics sometimes, and to a lesser degree, because Steve and I are not big fans, pre-workouts, even a good strong cup of coffee, which is my own personal favorite, will light up your synapses, get the neurons firing a little bit more. And so the signal, the motivation, the dream, the aspiration becomes a little bit more stronger as a signal in your brain. So there's an element of that as well, Steve. What about the product side, the nootropic side, before we move on to our personal motivators and drivers?
Yeah, we see a lot of people turning to these types of products. Look, at the end of the day, if you want to use them here and there, that's fine. Just don't. If the problem is if you're using them day in and day out, you're going to end up just becoming a junkie and addicted to them. So it's important with these nootropics to really use them on in isolated situations. Don't get hooked on them. But there are nootropics. You can come on the forum and actually take a look at some of the sponsors that we have on the forum that do have different types of nootropics, and they do it. They would do it for you. Yeah, so I mean, in this podcast, like we're talking about Euro Pharma, and we're going to talk about
Yes.
some of the products that they have that can really fire you up. So, like, I'm not a big fan of stimulating yourself or nootropics or any of that stuff, but what I am a fan of is using these PEDs that we're going to talk about that EuroPharmacies has, and these are some good ways to motivate you. So, when you're on cycle, you jump out of bed. You're like, man, I'm spending all this money on a cycle. I'm going through all this trouble to inject. I'm going through this trouble to remember to take my orals every day. That's in itself can motivate a lot of you to really push yourself on cycle. And that's something that, we see a lot with people. That's why people love using anabolic steroids so much, just the way it makes them feel on. So go ahead, Mobster. Yep.
Yeah. So let me ask Steve a question before we actually talk about products, Steve. What is it that motivates you to succeed in a gym, and even to a lesser degree, as both you and I do, the way that we push the sport, the way that we try to educate the masses that listen to this show via the podcast and on the forums? What is it about that that motivates you to succeed in that way? What drives you to succeed in that way? And I'll give you some of mine in a minute.
I think it's about staying healthy for me. I want to be healthy. I don't want to be sick. I think every day is a waste that you spend sick. So whether it be, look, at the end of the day, we're gonna have some things go wrong with us. I mean, we're humans. We might get, some type of virus. We might have a bacterial infection. We might have something wrong with our teeth where we have to go to the dentist. But look, at the end of the day, it's just a waste to me to be sick. And so many people out there, they just live day to day being sick all the time. They put things in their body to make them sick. They upset their stomach. They have diarrhea. They have nausea. They're up all night throwing up. They get viruses that don't go away and that last 2 3 weeks where you have to go to a hospital. It's just why be like that? Why be sick? So that's one of my motivators. Another one of my motivators is look, I want to look good. You've got to love yourself at the end of the day. There's a difference between being a narcissist and loving yourself because narcissists actually don't love themselves. They give that image of loving themselves, but they don't actually love themselves in most situations. But
Yeah,
really,
they want other people to love them. They
if
don't
you
love
love
themselves, Steve. Yeah, yeah,
if you
exactly.
love
Different.
if you love yourself, then you'll want to work out. You'll want to
Yeah.
stay in shape. You'll want to have a healthy heart, healthy liver, healthy kidney. You want to take care of yourself. You want to look good. You want to look in the mirror and see the progress, and that will motivate you even further. It's not about like, yeah, I want to go and become a pro bodybuilder and walk on stage, and show my body off in front of a bunch of strangers in the crowd. That's different. That's if you want to do that, then you can be motivated to go do that. But with me,
Yeah.
I don't have any desire to do that. Like I just want to look good 20 I just want to look good 365 and always be that person, who, walking down that beach has that nice physique and always has at least a 4 pack year round, preferably a
And that
six
sense
pack.
of energy, Steve, how
Yeah.
great is it for you to feel healthy and energetic?
Yeah, and that's another thing a lot of people don't do. Like a lot of people are metabolically sick. Look at your coworkers, and they wake up in the morning, they go to McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts, they eat trash food, they go to work, they're tired all day, they're depressed, and really is all they have is their food to look forward to every day. You don't want to be like that. You want to look forward to be like, what, I fucking decide what goes in my body. I don't like food to dictate to my brain what it wants. So it's about being healthy and being a strong person and just feeling good and sleeping good and having energy throughout the day. So if you want to accomplish that, you have to eat good and you have to exercise and you have to be consistent about it. So that's basically my motivation to do it. And I know, especially like when it comes to your heart health, if you're not doing your cardio consistently, your heart health will gradually get worse and worse. If you stop doing cardio like for a month and then you start it up again, you'll notice a big change in your conditioning. So you really have to keep at it to keep a strong heart. Because you have to remember our ancestors for throughout history have always had to do manual labor day in and day out. So we were doing the exercise by force because we had to do the exercise. We had to look for food. We had to scavenge for food. We had to hunt for food. We had to fix our shelter. We had to fight off other predators, including other Homo sapiens or Neanderthals or other, human-like species that existed at that time, 2 million years ago. And, we had to fight for territory. We had to do all these things on a day-to-day basis where we were training. And then once farming started, our ancestors started farming. They had to work on the farms. Whether, unless you were a noble or a king, queen, you basically worked every fucking day, to farm or crop or do something to provide for your tribe, provide to your family. And so, look, if you're not doing that every day, then you're not doing what we're supposed to be doing as human beings. So, 1 hour a day to exercise, you've got to do it. I don't care if it's going to the gym for an hour. I don't care if it's going swimming for an hour. I don't care if it's going bicycling for an hour. I don't care if it's walking the dog for an hour.
Yeah,
Anything,
yeah, yeah.
anything just to move the body every day is important. So you want to basically say, you know what, this is the way we evolved and this is what we're supposed to do every day. And if we're not doing it, it's just not going to work. And that's just how it is. So that's really the motivation factor with myself, Mobster. So think of it that way.
I can think of a couple of examples, and I want to keep this portion short because we're going to be talking about EuroPharma products that might assist you, and of course, EuroPharma itself momentarily. So I'm going to think of a couple of examples. One would be these shows that Steve and I do. Okay, so the obvious thing is that we're taking time out of our day to do these shows, to put out information. And I think we've actually touched on this in one or two shows, and we certainly spoke about it in the pre-show and the post-show when we've had time. Okay, so an obvious thing is we talk about some of the information that we do in these shows being timeless, meaning the work that we've done on a particular show is a reference point, like Wikipedia. It's not colored by opinion. It's not got triggers in there. It's not clickbaity. It's literally solid information about protein or a supplement or a PD that you can come back to and refer to again and again and again. And what do we get out of that? An obvious driver of motivation is, Steve, the simple fact that we've put out a solid piece of information. There are many, many shows. I saw something yesterday and they were suggesting that a particular coach was a psychopath. And then that was the title, so very clickbaity. And in the actual thing itself, there was some back and forth about coaches knowing their clients, etc. But there was nothing about the person being a psychopath, driven just to work with pros and feeding off the back of success. That was the implication, but it wasn't in the show. So, of course, the reason they hooked you in was this title. We don't do titles like that. We don't have subjects like that. We are literally out there trying to provide you with a reference, a statistical, so almost factual. There's a little bit of our opinion in. Of course, that's just because there's me and Steve as a co-host. But the long and the short of it is, it's about us putting out solid ass information on a regular basis that you, the listener, can come back to and listen again and again and again. I'll do one more and then we'll move on. So, just this as an example, my motivation, my drive has changed throughout the time that I've been training, from when I'm 15 to 18, when I first started using PDs, when I first started competing. On my little side desk, I've got a shelf. I came across, and this is just one example from back in the day, Steve. I have 3 certificates from the grip board about me being one of the Mash Monster Elite. So my drive at that particular time was to close. They had a series of grippers, I think numbered 1 to 5. It might be 1 to 6. And you got your name on a list. If you did the 1, you got your name on the list. If you did the 2, and so on. And if you did that, one of the Iron Game historians by the name of Joe Rourke recognized you. He was one of the signatories. And they would send you this for free at someone else's expense, wasn't my expense, these certificates through the post. And I ended up with the 1, the 2, and the 3. I believe there's only a handful of people that have done the 4, and I think there might be 1 individual that's been close to the 5. So I'm probably one of about 20 people in the world at that time, and I don't think it's got much since, that have done the 1, the 2, and the 3 and got the certificates to prove it. So my literal motivation would be at that time that I wanted my name on this fucking list, and I wanted to be one of those 20. And I want literally to be recognized for my hand power as 8 billion people on the planet. Only 20 people have closed the number 3 Mash Monster gripper. So it's a small thing. And again, my motivation changed from winning. I've talked about on another show recently, Steve. I lost by 2.7 points. I said 3 points. It was 2.7 points 1 year. I didn't mind that the other guy won. I minded that I'd lost by such a small amount, literally 1 lift or 5 to 10 kilos or a few points across the 5 events. 3 fucking points, Steve. 2.7 points. What the fuck? So my motivation for the following year was fire. I wanted to, and I did. I wanted to destroy that individual. He's a really nice guy. He's been a mentor. He's been a coach. He's been an advisor. But I wanted his ass on the plate. And I came back, and I knew that halfway through the following year's competition, I'd done him. And I knew that I was going to win from that point forward. Literally halfway through, I saw him looking at his notes. I saw him, he was doing guide notes about how we're going to do in the competition, expected numbers, and that was it, game over. And I beat him by, I think it was 7 times what he'd beaten me by the previous year, just under 21 points versus the 2.7 points the previous year. So that was my motivator that year. And again, it changes, it moves through life. You listeners will have your own specific motivations. I'll ask you at the end, Steve, when we're doing the disclaimer, I want the listeners to tell us what their motivators are. So let's move on to products that EuroPharmacies sells and provides that might help. Now, something I said to Steve in a pre-show, and I'll say this now, Steve. If you've got a particular target, a particular motivational drive to succeed, the idea that using a company like EuroPharma's products, which you know work, which you know is going to help you put a muscle, is a huge motivator. You don't just train. You don't have to sort of be tip-top with your nutrition. You're using PEDs and knowing that EuroPharma's has got your back, whether it's growth hormone, whether it's peptides, whether it's orals, whether it's injectables, and knowing that they're tried and tested is a huge thing, part of your success. So talk about that, Steve, and then we'll talk about specific products.
Yeah, so let's go over some of the things that you're going to experience when you use anabolic steroids. I can remember the first time I used them. Those androgens, Mobster, felt so fucking good. It felt like I was a teenager again. Remember when you're a
Yes.
teenager, you jump out of bed, especially if you had a girlfriend, that you were dating at school, you couldn't wait to get out of bed and go to school and give her a kiss, and hug her and feel her, because it's like the first time you've ever, touched a woman before and you had those hormones going. That's what it feels like the first time you use an anabolic steroid cycle. So let's start with what motivates some steroids, and testosterone comes to mind. And testosterone, look, at the end of the day, testosterone, it's got that estrogenic effect, it's got that androgenic effect in the body, it's got that anabolic effect in the body. And when you take it, you're gonna feel like that, you're gonna get that alpha feeling where you get stronger in the gym, you feel your mood improves, your libido goes crazy. You become like a different breed of yourself, and you feel fantastic on it. So you're a farmer, they have all kinds of testosterone options. They have the test sip, the test E, the test prop. If you want a short ester, they have they have blends of testosterone. They have very long ester testosterone. They have very short ester testosterone or no ester testosterone. They have every type of testosterone monster that you can imagine that they sell. So at the end of the day, if it's most people, if they're running testosterone, especially solo, they'll do 500 milligrams a week. But you don't have to do 500 milligrams. Our bodies naturally produce around 100 milligrams a week. So you can literally go on like 200 or 250 and you'd feel a big boost. Some people like to go higher. They'll go to 750. The most I've ever done is 750, which to me, I didn't notice any difference than 500. So, we're not doing these podcasts to sell you a bunch of gear and tell you to use a bunch of gear, but some people do like more testosterone. We see professional bodybuilders run a gram or more of testosterone.
Mm-hmm.
So really it depends, but 500 is the real average. So doing, if it's your first time using steroids, or even if it could be your 20th time using steroids and you just want to run testosterone by itself, 500 milligrams for 10 or 12 weeks, try it. Testosterone E or testosterone SIP, and you don't have to inject it as often. But if you want to go short ester, you can go to short ester route. But Euro Pharma, they have you covered on testosterone, but it makes you feel fantastic. Now, if you want to add something to testosterone, you can add an oral, either to kickstart or finish the cycle. You can add their Anavar as an excellent option. Their Turinabol is an excellent option. If you want to go with Dianabol and go more of a mass building strength effect, stacking testosterone and Dianabol will make you
Yeah.
feel so motivated. Like you'll feel that estrogen and
You'll feel
androgens,
big.
and
You'll feel
you'll
the
you'll
size of a fucking house.
you'll jump out of bed wanting to go work out. Your appetite will be
Pumps.
crazy. The
Pumps are
pumps will be
great.
crazy. Yeah,
Yeah.
so that's a great option. So really, those are some really good options from Europharma. Mobster, how about you? What are some more
Yeah, I'm
options?
just thinking, Steve, look, and I've talked about this on other shows, but with and I'm aiming at a specific part of our audience now, Steve. The trend is God, the trend is gold, right? So Eurofarmers does a couple of, this is stuff to 15 mil vials, never mind the 10 mil vials. They've got a Tren Ace and a Tren Enanthate, okay? Those of you that like Tren, and again, Steve and I tend to sort of moderate towards the lower dosages of 200, 300 milligrams a week, perhaps with one of the testosterone options that Steve's talked about. When it comes to Tren, I wouldn't run it long. So definitely from my mind, Steve, whether it's the Ace or the Enanthate, I would probably keep that to 8 weeks. In fact, I'd probably do it at the end. I might, for example, do a testosterone Enanthate and perhaps something else for 4 weeks, 5 weeks, and then the last 3, 4 weeks, I'd bring in the Tren only because of the Tren size. That said, here's the thing that we've talked about on other shows when it comes to Tren. You feel like a god. If Steve says the testosterone, and I agree with him, some listeners, some users of testosterone will feel like transformed. They'll feel young again, like he said, back to the young buck at school analogy. This could be in your 40s. You're horny all over again. The wind's changed direction. You've got an erection. What the fuck? What's going on? You're looking at way too much skirt, way too much ass. Right? Tren takes that up to another level. And this is the reason why some users love Tren. They literally, even with the toxicity, even with the kind of semi-toxic side kind of sensation, they know they can literally feel it working. That's what I can feel that toxicity. That means the Tren's kicking in. That means this is how I'm supposed to fucking feel. And that kind of gives them a sort of impetus in the gym to absolutely kick ass. Steve's talked about on the brief times that he's used Tren, he's practically tearing his rotator cuff because he was benching like an absolute crazy motherfucker, well in excess of 400 pounds, but well under 200 pounds body weight at the time. And just like, and he called it, what was it? Other people called it a relationship break. It's like divorce in a bottle because of the way they become, etc., etc. But there's absolutely no argument there, Steve, in terms of the sensations, etc., etc. One of the orals I want to touch on an oral here, Steve, is if, for example, halo testing. And the idea again is you're in a powerlifting competition, you're doing a strength cycle. So we've talked about halo. Annoyingly, for myself personally, I have a great success with Debo and Anavar from EuroPharmacies. I didn't personally get anything from Halo, which is really annoying, Steve, because I wanted that level of regression at the end of a cycle as I was peaking for a strength feat that I wanted to do. But for many, many users, love it. And again, it's a little bit toxic as an oral. So again, I might run it 30, 50 milligrams a day, Steve, but I would only run it for short periods of time at the very end of the strength cycle. If I was doing another oral Debo or Anavar, it'd be absolutely fantastic. A lot of you would, Anadrol would be another choice again. And this is just because, for example, lean gains with the Anadrol, wet gains, if you like, but that sheer bulk size we talked about with the Dynamo, very easy, 30 milligrams a day, 8 weeks, 4 weeks if you want to. But for me, the idea, and again, if I had some success with the halo testing, the last 2 weeks, as I'm peaking in my strength, and especially the day of a competition or the day that I want to get that feat of strength. So it's literally the confidence, the drive, the motivation, knowing that I've given myself an extra edge using something from EuroPharmacies just to take me to that particular place. Like I said, the idea that I'm training my ass off, that I'm sticking with my meal prep food, like most of our listeners would get success from, and then I bring in a EuroPharmacies product, and I've had recommendation upon recommendation. I've come onto the forums, I've listened to these shows, and I know that there are thousands of listeners and thousands of members of the forum. And I've just looked at literally half a dozen logs or threads on using EuroPharmacies products, whether they're injectables, whether they're orals, whether they're peptides, whether it's growth hormone. The idea that I can bring those products to the table, and these are going to make me succeed, has to be a great driver, has to be motivating. Literally, this is a great product. Let's just use a D-ball, Steve. I know Mobster said he put on 10 pounds. Mobster said he kept 6 pounds. 6 pounds would be fucking amazing. If Mobster's not shitting me, I'm going to go. This cycle, this training program, whatever the hell I'm on, I'm going to be successful. Steve Smith said T-bowl's great for conditioning when I'm doing tread. So I'm going to do tread. I'm going to follow Steve's suggestion. I'm going to use EuroPharmacies T-bowl, and I know that I'm going to negate some of the side effects. So again, it's motivating. You know you're not going to struggle as much as someone who didn't follow that advice, and you're using a great product. But that to me is properly motivating and inspiring just on that basis alone, Steve. Having a great source that's providing you with those products, and knowing that your cycle, your training efforts, that when you went to the gym, when you were hanging out your ass and you was tired and you're stressed, and you end up having a great workout because you use EuroPharmacies products, you thought about what you need to do to become motivated. And you did that, like we've told you on this show. And oh my God, Steve, hanging out your ass, tired, stressed, whatever, and it ends up being the best workout of your life or the best workout you've had that month. That has to be motivated, Steve. What do you think on that before we talk about your pharmacy specifically?
Yeah, so I want to go a couple more. Superdrol, Mobster mentioned Halo. So Superdrol and Halo, they're both good options for those of you who want to do just like a quick 2, 3, even maybe a 4 week cycle. They're
Yes,
very
yes.
toxic. So don't run them more than 10 or 20 milligrams a day. But if you want something that's really going to motivate, you're going to want to go work out every day on this stuff because you literally see day-to-day changes to your strength and possibly your physique using these steroids. So they're very, very harsh steroids. And I want to go back to talk about tren a little bit. So 200 to 400 milligrams of tren is a good dose. And really with tren, even 50 milligram difference you'll feel it. So what I mean by that, let's say you're running 250 milligrams a week and then you increase it to 300 milligrams. You'll feel the difference at 300 milligrams is so strong. And the reason tren is, it's a steroid that's of its own league is because of the way it fucks with your brain. Like it fucks with your neurotransmitters. It fucks with your dopamine. So it fucks with your prolactin and it throws off things in your brain. So when you're on it, you really have to work out when you're on it because that's the only way to get rid of the baby batter. Otherwise, you're just going to drive yourself crazy. So If you use trend, it's almost like you have to do something every day just to get that baby batter out. So that's a great motivating force because if you don't get it out, you're just going to drive yourself crazy and you're going to drive the people around you crazy. So what I found with trend is if I can go and just do a brutal ass workout, just wear myself down, especially in the morning, then I'm calm as a cucumber the rest of the day. But if I don't
Yeah.
get in a workout, I am irritable. I am like, really like a different person. So you want to make sure when you're using trend, you set aside plenty of time for training, for sex, lots of sex. Maybe consider dating two, three people at the same time when you're on it. And, that's what's going to get you through trend. So if you need some type of motivation, there's no better steroid than trend, but it's not for newbies. So you want to make sure you wait for a while. But let me tell you something. The EuroPharmacies trend is excellent, Mobster. They have different options. They've got
Yeah.
blends, they have ACE, they have E, they have Hex. So many different
15,
options they
10
have.
mils. Yep.
So I recommend if it's your first time, go with the acetate. The GP acetate is very, very good. All right, so I think that covers some of our favorite motivational steroids, Monster. Let's touch on Europharmacies, and I'll start a little bit. So Eurofarmers, they've been around a long time, 10, 15 years. And they've been providing fantastic gear for people all over the world for that time. And one of the things that they do really well is their product, the amount of products that they have. So they're a one-stop shop. So whether you need steroids, ancillaries on cycle, PCT products, whatever you need, they have you covered. It's a one-stop shop. So that's really good. It wasn't like that in the old days. In the old days, you'd have to get your ancillaries and your PCT products from somewhere else. But your
Yeah.
pharmacies, they have your cover. Another thing that your pharmacies is really good is their customer service and their reps on the forum. They have really good reps on the forums. The reps they have on the forums are extremely knowledgeable. I mean, these guys are really, they know their stuff, and that's not something you see very often in anything. Um, it's like going to Walmart and trying to find someone there to help you, make a decision
Yes.
on a product or something. It's just not going to happen because the people who work at Walmart don't give a flying fuck about their job and they don't give a shit about customer service. But look, the people they have at Euro Pharma, they know the products. They know how to use the products. They give you advice. They post knowledgeable stuff on the forums on all kinds of fitness related things. So that tells you something right there that they're willing to pay that extra money to have knowledgeable people working for them. That tells you something. They're not just trying to just sell the cheapest stuff to the cheapest, on the cheapest thing. So it's really, really that shows you a lot about that mobster that they're willing to do that.
Let me give you one example, Stephen. I've talked about Europharmacies on other shows before, and I said the thing that stood out to me at that particular time, and stands out to me now, is that they've actually asked on their website, working through one of their resellers, what you wanted. I mean, not just that they kind of figured out what customers were using and whatever else and put blends together, etc., etc. No, they literally said, "What do you want to see on this website? What information are we not providing you about our product that you'd like us to provide?" It's a simple things that helps with the customer service because you're literally anticipating to some degree what a customer wants and then asking the customer what they'd like to see. Amazon's not asking you. eBay's not asking you. They might have to do analysis and work out what's selling, etc. This company was asking you. One of the things they've done, for example, in the last few years, I said they kind of led the field, and I think they're still leading the field in this when they introduced their 15 mil vials and kept some of the 10 mil vials. They've actually reintroduced some of the products they dropped from the 10 mil vial line back because the international section, what we call the domestic US market, have asked for these products. So they brought some of those back. And again, that's based on customer feedback. They, for example, changed the way that they presented, which was quite clean. I've still got some of the older examples here, Steve, the oral sachets, but they redesigned, used a new supplier, I'm guessing, for the presentation of the oral products. And while it was perfectly fine before, it's a step up. in terms of how the product now is presented. If you look at it, you can see the difference immediately, and it just feels more professional. So basically, what does that mean? It means they're not sitting still. They're trying to innovate. They're trying to develop. They're working with their customers to see what the customers demand. And then there's, like Steve said, I mean, just think about one particular rep, and I'm not going to name him on this show because these people might come and go, and you might be listening to the show 10 years from now. But the person in question works in construction. And how the fuck, because I know how busy he is, finds the time to come onto the forums. He's way more patient and helpful than I am. And I'm kind of better than I used to be, but he's on another level when it comes to that kind of stuff, Steve. And we've actually done a show with him. We've seen information, articles that he's posted as a thread on the forums, and you go, listen, it's like 3,000 words, there's research, there's studies in there, and he's thoughtful and all that kind of stuff. Now, this takes time, takes effort. And we don't see that all the companies that we talk about. We don't see it with all the approved sources that we have on the forums, but we are seeing it with some of the people that are represented on behalf of EuroPharmacies or on behalf of a EuroPharmacies reseller. So that is absolutely amazing, Steve. And it blows my mind. And again, if you are coming to the forum, you're looking for motivation and drive, what do you get? You get in confidence that the people that are there just to support you are amazing, that they will support you, that they want you to succeed. Let us know in the comments, come onto the forums, post in the comments below, what motivates you, what drives you, what is it about EuroPharmacies that gives you that confidence to succeed? Steve and I want to know. Please note, we are not doctors and opinions are ours. It's our view and based on our experience and views on the topic. Our podcast are for informational purposes and entertainment only. The freedom of speech and the First Amendment applies.